A stray dog's action teaches us about unexpected bonds and hidden kindness. A crisp autumn morning ignited the suburban neighborhood with hues of amber, russet, and gold, as leaves pirouetted slowly from the limbs of ancient oaks and maples, settling softly onto cracked sidewalks and manicured lawns. The farmer's market bustled with life, a medley of chatter, clinking jars, and the earthy aroma of fresh apples and baked bread folding seamlessly into the melody of distant lawnmowers and the twittering of sparrows overhead. Max, a scruffy terrier mix with a tattered red bandana loosely tied around his neck, tread carefully along the periphery, eyes wide, amber orbs reflecting hope and caution in equal measure. His fur was matted in places, patches of dirt staining the faded brown coat acquired from months of wandering. Around his collar, the red bandana fluttered faintly in the breeze, a resilient banner amidst an uncertain world. Nestled between crates of pumpkins and spilled stalks of dried corn, the crowd ebbed and flowed, creating invisible barriers that Max hesitated to cross. Each sniffed scent was a siren call: warm bread, roasted coffee, ginger snaps, but also a reminder of the strangeness he inhabited, the invisible line dividing acceptance from exclusion. His ears twitched at the murmurs and occasional shouts nearby. A child's sudden giggle pierced through the hum, instantly followed by a stern voice. "Shoo! Get out of here, dog!" The sharp, unwelcome words came from across the path, a farmer waving a stick, eyes narrowed with suspicion and impatience. Max froze, then lowered his body in a measured retreat, tail tucked low but flicking slightly with a vestige of courage. He paused beneath an old apple tree, golden leaves drifting around him like silent judgment. Shuffled feet brushed past, some with dismissive kicks near, others turning faces away, a collective rebuke, silent and stinging. Max's soulful eyes dimmed momentarily, glimpsing the crowd not as a place to belong but as an arena of rejection. The world felt larger, colder. A distant bark from a well-loved dog rumbled through the air, and Max's gaze locked onto the figure of a golden retriever bounding freely among laughing children. The image was bittersweet, a portrait of belonging tantalizingly close yet painfully out of reach. With careful steps, Max edged toward a weathered wooden bench near a stand selling hot cider. His paws stirred leaves in slow circles. The tattered bandana swung gently as the wind whispered through the late morning calm. A faint tremor ran through his frame, the ache of invisibility, the sting of being unseen. Caught in a moment between hope and retreat, Max glanced up just as a sharp gust swept a silver bracelet from a passerby's wrist. The delicate chain caught on the fringes of Max's bandana, the tiny jingling a soft, serendipitous chime that seemed to untangle the tension coiling inside. The market's cacophony dimmed to a hush around him, the bracelet glinting in the sunlight like a whisper of promise. Despite the stranger's turning faces and quickened steps away, Max's gaze held steady, alight with traces of purpose newly found. The camera held on the scrappy terrier beneath the golden leaves, the jewel of the bracelet swinging gently with the rhythm of his quiet heartbeat, an unspoken pledge that this unexpected connection might be the beginning of something more. Autumn leaves continued their slow descent, petals of orange and red layering the earth beneath Max's feet, as life around him pulsed on, distant yet, perhaps, no longer unattainable. The gray sky opened, releasing a soft but relentless rain that fell upon the drying leaves, turning their colors from warm embers to muted ash. The once bustling farmer's market emptied as stallholders hurried to pack away their remaining goods beneath tarps and plastic sheeting. Max, a scrappy terrier mix marred by wind-blown fur and the dirge of loneliness, shrugged his small, damp frame beneath a worn wooden bench. The earth beneath was cracked and muddy, his breath visible in the sharp autumn air. The rhythmic tapping of rain on the rusted metal roof overhead was a solitary drum to Max's shrinking heart. Around him, the warm glow of fading lanterns flickered in closed storefronts, their windows smeared with droplets that fractured the dying amber light. He curled tighter, the wet tips of his fur dulling to darkened browns, his soulful eyes glistening with a pain deeper than hunger or cold. A crunch of footsteps passed nearby, heavy boots scuffing the wet foliage, a reminder of the remoteness of his place in this human world. A distant shout, a dismissive command to keep away from human affairs, bit through the dense air like a cold wind. Max flinched, tail lowering as the last threads of hope seemed to swirl away in autumn's chill. The lingering scent of bread and apples teased his nose but offered no comfort, only an ache of longing yearning to belong, to be seen, to be more than a wandering shadow. Under the fragile protector of the bench, Max's reflection shimmered faintly on a small puddle, a mirror fractured and incomplete, like himself. He whimpered softly, a barely audible sound swallowed by the incessant tap of rain and the rustle of leaves. His paws moved restlessly, tracing the cold earth as memories of kindness brief, flickering darted through the void. In his mind's hollow, he grasped for warmth, for a place to rest without fear, to be more than invisible. Nearby, a stray breeze caught a silver glint from the edge of the street. Max's ears pricked, nostrils flaring as the scent of metal, fragrant and foreign, mingled into the damp air. His gaze darted upward to catch a slender object shimmering against the gray, a delicate bracelet, forgotten or lost, spinning slowly as it tumbled toward him. The bracelet caught faintly on the edge of Max's tattered red bandana, snagging with a gentle jingle. For a heartbeat, the world hushed, the city's sleepy noise faded into a distant echo, replaced by the pure sound of possibility. His eyes met the bracelet's unintended tether, amber warmth merging with silver light, a fragile symbol of lost connections, of hope strung delicately amid the rubble of rejection. Max tilted his head, a spark flaring beneath years of learned caution, as the weight of his solitude shifted. Around him, the rain softened, the sky peeling back a thin crescent of waning sun, spilling soft hues over awakening leaves. The market lay quiet, but Max's small form began to rise, bandana shimmering with newfound purpose, a beacon swinging softly with each tentative step. The camera held on the scruffy terrier as he moved out from the shadow of the bench, paws tapping against wet earth, eyes brightening with the faint glow of something more, a silent vow beginning to take root within the spiral of his journey. Rain drummed steadily against the slats of the worn wooden bench under which Max huddled, each drop a cold reminder of a world that had little room for a scruffy stray with matted fur and tired, searching eyes. The air was thick with the scent of wet earth and fallen leaves. The autumn colors bled like a watercolor painting into the damp ground. Around him, footsteps hurried away, voices muffled under coats and umbrellas, leaving Max alone with the soft, sorrowful symphony of the rain. His body trembled beneath his ragged red bandana, now sodden and heavy, but it remained wrapped tightly, a stubborn banner against invisibility and despair. The weight of rejection pressed down on him, yet deep within those soulful brown eyes flickered a fragile ember, an instinctual rhythm resisting the dark pull of loneliness. In the midst of this quiet storm, a fleeting movement caught Max's gaze, a delicate glint spun silently through the dull murk, a small silver bracelet set loose by a distracted passerby, glinting briefly as it fell through the drizzle. Time seemed to slant and slow. The bracelet, like a precious secret, twirled gently, finally snagging on the worn corner of Max's weary bandana. The soft jingle was a whispered melody that stirred the quietude of his heart. For a heartbeat, the cold was forgotten, replaced by a shimmering connection, an unexpected tether snapping into place between stray and lost treasure. Max's ears twitched as he lifted his head, the world narrowing to the slow sway of the bracelet catching the pale light. Around him, the bustling market was blurred by sheets of rain, voices dimming into a slow, distant murmur, the chaos transformed into a sacred pause. His body unfurled tentatively, the ache of being unwanted tempered by the delicate weight at his side. The bandana, now holding the clasped promise of something more, fluttered with new purpose, catching the golden hues of a sun breaking timidly through the gray. Max rose, paws pressing softly on the saturated earth, his eyes brightening with the quiet assurance of belonging. The bracelet shimmered in tandem, a beacon calling him forward, whispering a story yet to be told. Leaves swirled in lazy spirals around him, a golden halo born of wind and light, as Max trotted from beneath the bench, stepping into the unfolding day. He was no longer just a stray lost to shadow and cold. He was a guardian of hope, an unexpected companion on a path knitting fragments of lost connections. The camera lingered on that small, determined figure moving steadily through the glowing autumn landscape, the red bandana a bold slash of color against the soft earth tones, the bracelet a glint of light balancing between past sorrows and future promises. In that gentle, unyielding moment, Max carried the silent vow of a soul ready to rewrite its story, a story of resilience, kindness, and the timeless need to belong. The chill of early morning hung heavily in the air, weaving a veil of damp mist over the sleepy suburban streets where Max prowled with a cautious intensity beneath his damp, tattered red bandana. Autumn's breath stirred the brittle leaves peeling off ancient maples and oaks, sending a cascade of fiery orange and gold swirling around his paws. The world awoke slowly, the warm, amber hues clashing gently against the cold reality that Max grappled with in every heartbeat, the ache to belong, the gnawing hunger for connection that had evaded him beneath countless shadows. Max's paws pressed firmly into the sodden earth on the fringe of a quiet park, masking the soft crunch as he sniffed the air carrying traces of human life, laughter, and fleeting warmth. The glint of silver metal caught by the hazy light drew his gaze. The delicate bracelet that had caught so magically at his bandana now rested in his fur like a secret to be kept, a promise yet fulfilled. A tentative tug at the sparkling jewelry stirred a surge of determined hope deep within his chest, animating each cautious step forward. Max's nose followed invisible trails beneath leaking gutters and rustling bushes, trails that told of a life interrupted, of a missing link to someone else's heartbreak. The warm scents of freshly baked bread and roasting chestnuts rose temptingly from a nearby bakery, blending deliciously with the crispness of fallen leaves, creating a battleground of distraction and desire. His ears twitched, torn between the pull of survival and the tug of an unknown purpose. On the edge of the park, a small girl sat alone on a bench, the sleeve of her sweater soaked, cheeks flushed with cold. Her eyes, bright and searching, caught Max's cautious presence across the space, an unspoken recognition passing between two souls bound by loss and longing. Max's tail gave a subtle, hesitant wag as he approached the girl, the bridge between loneliness and trust tentatively forming with every measured step. "Hey there, buddy," the girl whispered softly, voice trembling with equal parts hope and fatigue. She stretched out a small hand, fingers trembling as they brushed against Max's scruffy fur. "Are you lost too?" The dog responded with a gentle nuzzle, eyes full of raw yearning and quiet resiliency, a silent pledge to protect and accompany. For a brief instant, the blurred edges of Max's world sharpened, as if the lost bracelet tied them both into a tapestry of shared destinies. But the world was not ready to grant generosity without cost. From across the street, a stern voice shattered the fragile calm. "Shoo! That dog doesn't belong here." A figure emerged, a harried shopkeeper, sweat mingling with the autumn chill, waving a broom like a spear of exclusion. Max's ears flattened, the nascent warmth inside threatened by the cold winds of rejection. He barked a quick, sharp sound, part confusion, part defiance as the girl's grip tightened. "No, he's okay," she pleaded, eyes flashing with determination. The tension hung thickly as Max stood between retreat and courage, every muscle taut, every sense alert. The camera captured the charged silence, the breath before the storm, and the fragile moment when a stray dog dared to step beyond invisibility. Then, with a soft whimper of resolve, Max turned, nose quivering, and tore into the alleys bordering the park, his heart racing but guided by a newfound purpose pulsing in the chain of the lost bracelet. Above, the sun broke from the clouds, casting golden light across a path uncertain but beckoning. Max's journey had begun anew, etched by struggle, shadowed by doubt, but ignited by the first spark of belonging. The scene closed on a whirlwind of amber leaves dancing in the wind, swirling around Max's retreating figure, a promise whispered on the autumn breeze that this was only the beginning. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows that stretched across the golden tapestry of fallen leaves, as Max wound through the winding lanes of the suburban neighborhood. Every rustle beneath his paws was a whisper of unease and urgency. The bracelet, silver and delicate, tugged slightly at his tattered red bandana, a newfound purpose threading through his every breath. The alluring scent of cinnamon-laden pastries wafted temptingly from an open bakery, warm light spilling onto the cobblestone path. Max's nose twitched, hunger and hope wrapped in aromatic coils. He hesitated, caught in the tender grip of desire, torn between the pressing call of the unknown and the simple comfort of the present moment. His steps faltered briefly as sharp voices fractured the tranquil ambiance. "That dog's a thief!" barked an irate shopkeeper, pointing a trembling finger as Max trotted too close to freshly displayed baked goods. The accusation struck like a cold gust, distrust flashing in strangers' eyes like sudden lightning. Rising tension hummed as wary stares bore into him, the neighborhood's warmth thickening with suspicion. Max's body tensed, tail lowered slightly, but his eyes remained steady, burning with the fledgling courage that had taken root beneath layers of solitude. The weight of being misunderstood clawed into his chest, but he refused to falter. His bandana shimmered faintly in the fading light, a badge of resilience, a promise unspoken. Across the breeze, a faint scent pulled him onward, mingling with the chilled air and carrying fragments of laughter and displaced hope. Max's pace quickened, nostrils flared as he followed the delicate trail toward a cluster of children playing near a forgotten park bench, their voices a lively chorus echoing against autumn's waning glow. Amid the laughter, a small voice faltered. One child remained still, her eyes rimmed with tears, clutching a well-worn doll. The bracelet Max bore seemed to pulse invisibly toward her, a silent magnet drawing their fates into a fragile intersection. Max approached cautiously, the girl's gaze locking with his, a spark of recognition and need shimmering between them. She reached out timidly, wrapping arms around the scruffy terrier with a gratitude and warmth that kindled brighter than any autumn fire. "Thank you," she whispered, voice cracked but sincere. A burgeoning bond forged in the tender breath between stranger and lost soul, fragile but profound. Yet the moment's calm shattered as the sharp clang of a bicycle pierced the air. The child froze. A boy appeared, shouting accusations of theft directed at Max. Chaos swelled, startled glances, whispered doubts, a sudden panic that threatened to drown the fragile trust they'd found. Max barked, energy surging through limbs honed by struggle. He knocked over a wooden cart brimming with apples, the crash sending fruit tumbling across the street. Gasps and sharp rebukes followed, voices rising like storm-driven waves. Pain flickered in Max's eyes, the sting not from bruises but from the age-old burden of being feared when all he wanted was belonging. Retreat was swift. Max slipped into shadows beneath a fire escape, heart pounding amidst the clamor of judgment and suspicion. The bracelet jingled quietly, a soft, defiant chorus against the clatter of misunderstanding. In the deepening dusk, Max watched as the child's face pressed against the gathering crowd, her expression torn between fear and hope. The night closed in, cool and unyielding, but amidst the chill, a stubborn flame flickered. A whispered conversation reached Max's ears, fragments of the bracelet's significance, whispered wonders, and mounting concerns. His eyes narrowed with renewed resolve. The path ahead was fraught but vital. The camera held on Max's silhouette poised against the dimming light, bandana trailing faintly like a flag caught in the wind, defiant, relentless, and ready. The scene faded with the slow fall of an amber leaf, spiraling through the twilight, a silent harbinger of the journey still unfolding and the truth still waiting in the shadows. The afternoon sun retreated behind bruised clouds, casting the suburb's worn streets into a palette of dusky blues and muted golds. Max's paws danced hesitantly upon the weathered pavement, his scruffy form weaving through the fractured world of falling leaves and scattered shadows. The bracelet caught like a shimmering secret on his tattered red bandanas, weighed softly with every step, a delicate weight anchoring him to a purpose he was only just beginning to understand. His senses strained amidst the melange of scents and sounds. The crisp bite of roasted nuts from a nearby stall, the distant laughter echoing faintly through the fading light, the unmistakable whisper of betrayal hidden beneath casual conversations. Max's ears pivoted toward murmurs that fluttered through the crisp autumn airwards, full of urgency intertwined with quiet dread. "That bracelet's more important than anyone knows," a woman whispered fiercely, fingers clutching a frayed newspaper clutched tightly against her chest. "It disappeared days ago. Lost or stolen, they say." Max's heart quickened. The world around him pulsed with new meaning. The bracelet was no mere trinket. It was a bearer of memories, a fragile vessel of lost connections that someone, somewhere, desperately sought. Yet even as hope flared, shadows lengthened. From a dim corner of the market square came erupting chaos, a startled cry, the crash of overturned baskets. Max's joyful scamper was abruptly halted as a vendor accused him sharply, voice sharp with blame. "Thief! Get him!" The command hurtled through the crowd like a stone, and Max, confused and frightened, bolted as hands reached out, accusations ringing through the thinning light. His boundless energy, once a beacon of playful promise, now branded him a troublemaker. The bracelet tethered to his neck jingled wildly as he dodged crashing carts and stumbled across wet cobblestones. At the alley's edge, Max's breathing surged, heart pounding like wild drums. The scent trail he had so faithfully followed seemed to blur beneath the weight of suspicion, yet within the storm ignited by accusations, he caught the smallest glint of understanding in a child's tearful gaze. A whisper stole through the press of aching moments between breaths, words caught and then freed by a woman's soft voice nearby. "He's not just a stray." Something about that bandana haze carrying more than fur and bones. Amidst the blurred faces and shifting shadows, a turn appeared. The bracelet, caught on Max's bandana, had become a symbol of resilience and hope, a tether linking lost souls across widening silence. Breathing deep and steadying his resolve, Max arched his back, lifted his head high, bearing the burden of mistrust but carrying the unspoken truth with a courageous heartbeat. The lens fixed on Max's soulful eyes, brown and deep pools reflecting the fading light and the dawning resolve. Around him, the world still churned with doubt and disregard. But within the fragile frame of a stray stood a flicker of indomitable spirit, a spark that no shadow could snuff out. As twilight folded over the city, mingling the hues of day and night, Max's figure dissolved into the waiting darkness, the bracelet's silver gleam a guiding star in the journey that was far from over. The scene closed with a slow pan over resting autumn leaves, a silent testament to cycles of loss and renewal. And beneath their gentle flutter lay the promise that sometimes, the smallest act of resilience can upset the weightiest truth. The sun had disappeared behind a curtain of heavy, slate-gray clouds, turning the warm hues of autumn into muted shadows that clung like ghosts to the sleepy suburban streets. Max crouched beneath the familiar wooden bench near the market, the damp earth pressing cold and unforgiving beneath his paws. His once lively eyes, now dulled and distant, reflected the oppressive sky above, a mirror to the storm brewing silently within. A cacophony erupted nearby, a loud crash, followed by angry shouts and hurried footsteps. Max's ears flattened, heart pounding as the source of chaos revealed itself. A wooden cart laden with fresh produce lay overturned, apples and squashes rolling like scattered jewels across the pavement. Max, in his youthful energy, had knocked it over in an eager search, hopeful and guided by the faint scent of the lost bracelet still tethered nervously to his worn bandana. The farmers' faces twisted, voices charged with blame and frustration. "That mutt did this," one cried, pointing accusingly as others murmured their agreement. "Get him out of here." The weight of being misunderstood crashed over Max with a fierce intensity, sharper than the bite of the cold drizzle now beginning to fall. His paws shook, tail trembling, as the crowd's ire became an invisible noose choking the fragile threads of hope he'd woven. Max scampered away, evasion replacing purpose as he sought refuge under the bench, the place where the rain pooled slowly, dark and endless. The cold water crept over his limbs, seeping into his fur, mirroring the growing chill within his chest. Around him, the world moved on indifferently, voices fading into the distance, leaving only silence and the relentless patter of raindrops. The bracelet's muted jingle was the lone sound accompanying the solemn beat of his heart, a gentle but poignant reminder of the hope slipping through his grasp. Max's breath hitched as a shadow loomed, a hurried footstep, a sharp word, and suddenly his brief sanctuary was invaded. Hands reached toward him, not with kindness, but driven by fear and accusation. His back pressed against cold wood, eyes wide with a mix of despair and desperate yearning for belonging. The rain intensified, each droplet a tiny hammer upon the cracked pavement, joining the pounding storm within. Max's gaze drifted upward, struggling to pierce the gray haze. He saw the fleeting flicker of a flickering street lamp, a weak beacon in the suffocating gloom, its light dancing uncertainly over the glint of his battered bandana. In that fragile gleam, a fragment of resilience whispered, tenuous, wavering but enough to kindle the faintest ember of defiance amidst the suffocating weight of rejection. The camera held tight on Max's trembling figure, small and vulnerable against the haunted urban sprawl. The world was vast, cold, and unforgiving, but deep within him, the silent drumbeat of perseverance refused to silence. The scene dissolved with the rain blurring the edges of reality, falling like tears from a sky too heavy to hold hope, yet beneath it, the soft, unyielding pulse of a heart still fighting to find its place. Night had fallen with a thick, suffocating embrace, cloaking the quiet streets in shadows that stretched and curled like restless spirits. Max lay curled beneath the chipped wooden bench, rainwater dripping from the rusted iron legs, pooling around his trembling frame. The air was cold, crisp, biting sharply at his damp fur, the chill weaving into his bones as if to mirror the heavy weight inside his chest. Around him, the muted sounds of the sleeping neighborhood fell into a restless silence, a silence almost reverential, broken only by the soft patter of rain and the distant hoot of an owl. In the dim light reflected from a flickering street lamp, Max's soulful eyes glistened, wide and glassy with a storm of unspoken sorrow and fatigue. His breath, shallow and uneven, transformed into a faint mist that merged with the icy air. The bracelet, now loosened from its hold, lay nestled in the wet leaves beside him, glinting faintly, a fragile reminder of the lost connections that haunted him. It was as if the metal itself wept silently, a small shard of hope slipping through his paws, unreachable yet unyielding. Waves of loneliness crashed relentlessly through Max's spirit like an unending tide. He pressed his muzzle against the cold earth, the rough texture grounding moments of despair that flooded his mind. The weight of rejection, the sting of misunderstanding, formed a shroud heavier than any winter storm. The bench creaked softly beneath the strain of rain and age, an echo of Max's own fragile state. The world around him, muted and distant, seemed to cease existing, compressed into a single, endless moment where hope and despair collided and dissolved one into the other. In a whisper barely audible, Max's breath trembled into the chilled night, a soft, forlorn sound lost beneath the rhythm of the rain. No words came, only silence, pregnant with all the pain that refused to be named. From the shadowed corners, the silence stretched, thick and impenetrable. Even the vibrant life that once danced in autumn's glow now seemed extinguished. Max's bandana hung limp, no longer a banner of resilience but a ragged remnant fluttering weakly in the indifferent breeze. His body curled tighter, a protective shell against the vast emptiness. Each heartbeat was a hollow drum, a cruel reminder of the isolation that had sharpened its claws beneath the surface. His eyes, once bright with tentative hope, now mirrored the starless sky, unbroken void where light dared not linger. The camera drew close, capturing details of his stillness, the slight rise and fall of his chest, the quiet shiver that ran along his spine. Outside, the street lamp sputtered, casting fractured shadows that danced momentarily before succumbing to darkness, as if the night itself wished to swallow the fragile flicker whole. The scene held in a suspended breath of frozen echo of a soul crushed by the weight of endless misunderstanding, poised at the edge of surrender. And then, in the encompassing silence, the faintest rustling of leaves kissed the still Ira whisper of something unmet, a breath of time still unwinding beneath a world steeped in quiet desperation. The night air was dense and still, the rain finally ceasing but leaving all surfaces glistening with a hollow sheen. Max lay curled beneath the frail shelter of the same bench that had witnessed his earlier despairs, his scruffy form shivering with a mix of cold and exhaustion. The world seemed folded into a quiet void, a stage stripped to muted shadows and the faint rustling of leaves disturbed by a distant breeze. His eyes, usually so bright and searching, now seemed dulled, reflecting the dull glow of the street lamp overhead. The red of his tattered bandana, once a vibrant banner of resilience, now hung limp and worn, caught slightly on a loose thread as it rested against the bench post. The sliver of silver caught on the bandanath lost bracelet hung there too, metallic and silent, a whisper of things lost and stories yet unresolved. Its soft chime in the night was a faint pulse in the overwhelming quiet, a fragile heartbeat in the darkness of Max's world. Memories stirred, fragments weaving through the shadows of his mind like flickering flames. Moments of kindness met, the warmth of a child's embrace, the gentle hand that reached out despite the crowd's cold dismissal. Those fleeting lights hovered just out of reach, infusing a delicate glimmer amid the encroaching gloom. A slow, tentative sound interrupted the silence, a soft murmur of footsteps approaching through the empty streets. Max's ears pricked, head lifting with an uncertain spark rekindling in his gaze. A kind old woman's voice, gentle and steady, floated toward him through the night air. "Poor thing," she said softly, reaching out with trembling hands holding a bowl of warm food. "You carry something special, don't you?" Her hands brushed the bandana carefully, her eyes catching the glint of the bracelet as if recognizing an unspoken promise. Max's tail gave a faint, grateful wag, the movement small but charged with a fragile hope. The gesture was more than hunger's response, it was a bridge forged in compassion, an anchor pulled taut amid tempests of solitude. He rose slowly, the burden of rejection and misunderstanding momentarily lifted by this unexpected kindness. The world beyond was still uncertain and cruel, but within the tender glow of the moment, Max caught the faintest glimpse of belonging. The camera lingered on the scrappy terrier, illuminated by streetlights' warm amber, suspended between shadow and light. The battered bandana fluttered gently as a breeze whispered through the falling leaves, carrying with it the silent vow of resilience. And in that fragile shimmer of grace, Max's journey stirred anew, not defined by loneliness or loss, but by the quiet strength kindled in a single act of kindness. The scene closed softly on Max's steady breath blending with the cool night air, the bracelet's gleam catching last whispers of autumn's fading light, heralding the fragile dawn awaiting just beyond the dark. The first gentle rays of morning sunlight filtered through the amber maple leaves, casting a honeyed glow across the quiet suburban streets. Autumn breathed softly into the world, revealing a palette of gold, crimson, and burnt sienna dancing with the breeze. Max stirred beneath the bench where he had once hidden, his scruffy frame no longer trembling but poised, eyes the deep, warm brown of renewed hope. The dampness from the night rain still clung faintly to the fur around his neck, mingling with the vibrant red of his tattered bandana, no longer a symbol of mere survival, but now a banner of resilience intertwined with fate. The delicate bracelet, once lost and now locked gently upon this fabric, shimmered with the softness of dawn, its silver links catching fleeting patches of shimmering light. A quiet determination pulsed through Max's every movement as he rose steadily to his feet, the warmth of the street's awakening sun sitting lightly upon his shoulders. The world that had once seemed cold and indifferent began to hum with possibility, each rustling leaf and soft footfall a whisper of new beginnings. Max's nostrils flared as he caught familiar, yet distant scents carried upon the crisp morning air, hint of fresh bread from a nearby bakery, the subtle tang of earth and fallen leaves. These echoes of life stirred within him a tender vulnerability, a fragile thread weaving his past solitude into a tapestry of belonging. He padded forward with a cautious grace, eyes bright and alert, tracing the soft flutter of the bracelet against his bandana, an unexpected compass guiding his paws. Beneath the gentle hum of a waking neighborhood, Max's heart beat steady, a rhythm no longer drowned by loneliness but synchronized with the slow pulse of hope. Silence broken by the distant laughter of children playing, the soft murmur of neighbors greeting the day, all weaving into the gentle chorus embracing him. Max paused at the corner of a familiar street, where golden leaves drifted in spirals and the sunlight pooled, warming the world and softening shadows. His gaze lifted, catching the tender smile of a passerby whose warm eyes met his with unguarded kindness, a fleeting connection, yet enough to spark the fragile glow of trust, crack the shell of invisible walls. "Good boy," a gentle voice murmured, barely louder than the breeze, brushing past his ears. Max's tail twitched in a shy but hopeful wag. The symbolic weight upon his bandana flickered anew, the bracelet's quiet chime a subtle herald of purpose discovered. Max crept forward, the shadows of past rejection retreating beneath the burgeoning light. In this tender dawn of transformation, the hardships endured still lingered like cooling embers, but now they were the bedrock beneath a hopeful ascent. The journey ahead remained uncertain, fraught with invisible hurdles and whispered doubts, yet Max's steps spoke of courage, the unyielding heartbeat of a soul awakening. The camera held on Max's silhouette, both solitary and resolute paws tracing patterns across sunlit leaves, the red bandana blazing softly against the earth's warm hues. The world breathed again, and so did he. The scene faded with the quiet swell of life returning, soft rustles in the trees, distant calls of morning birds, the delicate shimmer of hope tangled in the brightening air. Change was coming, fragile but unstoppable, like the first brave bloom pushing through crisp autumn soil. The narrow alley was cloaked in dusk's fading amber light, the golden leaves swirling gently in restless eddies that traced the stories of countless footsteps both recent and long gone. Max trotted cautiously, the hush of evening wrapping around him like a warm cloak, the faint jingle of the bracelet caught firmly on his tattered red bandana, a steady rhythm breaking the silence. Ahead, two shadows moved, one frantic and desperate, the other resolute and wary. The thief, haggard and quick, clutched something small and metallic, a glimmer unmistakably like the lost bracelet. Between them stood the rightful owner, eyes wide and voice rising with desperate longing. Max's hackles rose, instinct stirring deep within his sturdy frame. He stepped forward, every pawfall sure and purposeful, as if the weight of his journey now pressed him onward. The red bandana fluttered defiantly, a banner for the resilience that no desperate act or shadowed intent could unseat. Growling low in his throat, Max positioned himself firmly between the desperate thief and the weathered owner. The guerrilla lights of street lamps cast stark contrasts, the thief's face shadowed in deepest gray, the owner's marked with weary hope. In a trembling tone, the owner reached toward Max. "Thank you, brave friend. You've done more than anyone could ask." The thief lunged suddenly, but Max's swift motion and unwavering stance held firm, a quiet sentinel standing tall against chaos. The alley echoed with the clash of wills, the promise of protection voiced without words. The tension thrummed like an electric pulse, the night holding its breath. Max's eyes burned, reflecting a fierce clarity, a man-made world caught in an honest moment of courage and connection. As the thief was subdued, retreating into the shrouded shadows slipping between rising mist, the owner knelt beside Max, gently removing the bracelet from his bandana. Their fingers brushed softly over Max's worn fur, a trembling caress of gratitude and newfound respect. Max emitted a soft, resonating bark, an unspoken acceptance, a bond reforged in the crucible of danger. The bracelet's silver sheen caught the last rays of the dying sun, glinting like a lighthouse guiding lost souls home. The golden glow bathed the narrow alley, the light piercing the encroaching darkness, illuminating Max's determined silhouette, a beacon of hope, courage, and unwavering loyalty. The camera slowly pulled away, framing a tableau of sanctuary reclaimed. The leash extended but not yet fastened, the owner's eyes glistening with tears. Max's steady presence, a testament to resilience born of hardship. In the softening light, Max's breath mingled with the cool evening air as the first stars winked awake. Within that quiet moment, a profound revelation shimmered, a transformative courage that could rise from the depths of struggle, a spark that would illuminate paths yet untraveled. The scene closed on Max's face, framed by his fluttering red bandana, eyes deep pools of steady resolve and fragile beginnings, poised at the brink of a destiny that promised belonging beyond the shadows. The alleyway held a quiet charge, draped in the soft glow of amber streetlights that flickered like distant stars against the deepening twilight. Leaves drifted down in slow, swirling eddies, painting the cracked pavement with fiery hues of auburn and gold. Max stood motionless, the red of his weathered bandana catching the last glimmers of dying light, the lost bracelet dangling delicately yet defiantly, a symbol not just of possession but of enduring hope. His gaze was steady, eyes radiant pools of unspoken courage. Time seemed to fold around him. The urgency of moments past settled into a profound stillness, as if the world itself bore witness to the culmination of his journey. The harsh echoes of accusation, the cold crescendo of misunderstanding, all dissolved into memory. The rightful owner stepped forward, fingers trembling as they reached out, reclaiming the bracelet with a wise, grateful smile that softened the shadows etched across their face. Relief and wonder sparkled in their eyes, flooded with a quiet joy that filled the fragile space between them and the dog whose scruffy valor had bridged the chasm of loss. "You're a hero, little one," the owner whispered, voice hushed but heavy with emotion. Their hands gently stroked Max's fur, the worn bandana, the cherished band of silver. It was not a mere token now, but the beating heart of recovery and connection. Max tilted his head, a small sound, the warmth of acceptance rippling through his being. The roughness of his journey softened beneath the gentle weight of belonging, a soulful cadence that had once seemed impossible now humming steady and true. The world outside the alley's cradle spilled in golden hues. The autumn dusk conspired with the vibrant flames of street lamps, orchestrating a mosaic where shadows and light danced in harmonious grace. The deep amber of falling leaves echoed the flickering hope burning suddenly bright within Max's chest. A tender breeze stirred the crimson scarf around his neck, lifting the fabric like a flag raised in victory over the lingering gloom. His eyes scanned the gathered faces of the city, once indifferent but now alight with stories of empathy and redemption sparked by his quiet valor. "From stray to savior," a nearby voice remarked softly, a collective chorus of admiration rippling through the crowd drawn near, their laughter and smiles weaving together an invisible tapestry of communal belonging. Max's gaze lifted toward the horizon where the first stars began to blink awake, tranquil witnesses to a night softened by reclaimed trust and newfound family. The vulnerability once etched deep into his very bones had evolved into a courageous grace, unshakable, luminous, and free. The camera held close on Max's resolute frame, the humble terrier now a shining emblem of perseverance, stretching tall against the encroaching night in a world finally willing to see, to care, and to embrace. The scene faded slowly, resting on the tender glisten of the bracelet, the sturdy sweep of the bandana, and the ever-hopeful gaze of a dog transformed. It was the quiet dawn of belonging, a radiant testament that even the loneliest wanderers can become heroes and that through kindness and courage, all wounds may find healing. Max stood calm, poised on the brink of the next chapter, the boundless journey of love and loyalty unfurling infinitely before him. Morning dawned softly across the quiet neighborhood, the air filled with the gentle scent of falling leaves and the faint warmth of the sun breaking through the delicate veil of twilight. Max sat on the porch of the humble, now peaceful house he had helped restore, his scruffy fur illuminated by the soft, amber glow. His eyes, once filled with uncertainty and longing, now reflected a profound calm and quiet acceptance. The world around him was bathed in a golden hue, the vibrant reds and oranges of autumn echoing the quiet strength he had discovered within himself. The bracelet, the fragile symbol of hope and connection, lay beside him on the worn wooden porch, its silver glinting softly in the morning light, like a tiny beacon of the journey he had traveled. Max's gaze lingered on the horizon, where the distant outline of the community gathered in a small, joyful gathering. Laughter floated through the crisp air, stories shared of courage, kindness, and the unexpected treasures found along the way. In the center of the festivities stood the owner, who looked at Max with gratitude and affection, a bond sealed not by words but by shared moments of compassion. The slight breeze lifted Max's bandana, a splash of red against the calm earth, and for a moment, he closed his eyes, immersed in a tender silence that felt like a gentle embrace. He breathed deeply, the scent of faded memories and new beginnings mingling in the air. His ears twitched at the sound of children playing nearby, their carefree giggles dancing in harmony with the rustling leaves. In that serenity, Max represented the quiet triumph of perseverance, once lost and misunderstood, now a symbol of resilience and hope. His journey had revealed that even amidst darkness, a single act of kindness could spark profound transformation. The small cracks of doubt in his heart had mended, replaced by a gentle assurance that belonging was no longer a distant dream, but a reality he had helped nurture. The camera zoomed out slowly, capturing Max's peaceful profile against the backdrop of a community that had come to trust and accept him. The warm glow of the morning continued to seep into every corner, casting long, golden shadows over the house and the garden beyond, a testament to the enduring power of hope, kindness, and the quiet miracle of finding one's place. A gentle gust of wind carried a swirl of fallen leaves before settling softly at Max's paws, the scene fading into a tender tableau of acceptance and belonging, a moment suspended in time, a silent promise that the journey of love and resilience was just beginning. The glow from the fireplace cast a warm, flickering light that danced across the cozy living room, filling the space with a gentle golden hue. Max, now a cherished part of the household, lay stretched out on a thick rug near the hearth, his new bandana vibrant, clean red wrapped snugly around his neck as if sealing a quiet promise. The quiet hum of the crackling fire mingled with the soft, measured breaths of his owner, who sat nearby, a peaceful smile softly etched on their face. Outside, the world remained painted with the rich tones of autumn, leaves drifting lazily in the golden afternoon sunlight filtering through the window. It was a scene of gentle closure, a testament to the journey from loneliness to belonging, from despair to understanding. Max's eyes, now clear and serene, moved slowly, soaking in this moment of peace. Memories flickered in his mind, every step of his long journey, each act of kindness, every moment of doubt and revelation woven into the tapestry of this quiet day. His fur, once scruffy and forlorn, caught the warm glow, a symbol of resilience reborn. His owner gently stroked his head, a gesture tender and full of unspoken gratitude. "You found your place, little one," they whispered softly, voice thick with emotion, the words carrying the weight of so much hope and love. Max responded with a gentle nuzzle, feeling the kinship that had grown from shared trust and patience. The camera zoomed out slowly, framing them both against the backdrop of a peaceful, autumnal landscape. The fire's glow faded into the soft shadows of the room, segueing into the fading light outside, an eternal reminder that chaos and despair can give way to acceptance and warmth. Max closed his eyes momentarily, the silent understanding settling deep within his heart, the quiet acknowledgement that he had found not just a home but a sanctuary of trust and belonging. The scene lingered on this tableau of quiet joy, a triumphant testament to the power of kindness, perseverance, and the unexpected treasures that come with a journey of love. As the final rays of the sun dipped beyond the horizon, the screen slowly faded, leaving behind an image of serenity, a reflection of a life transformed, forever marked by the simple beauty of being loved. The room was cloaked in a tranquil stillness, bathed in the gentle glow of the evening's last light filtering through the window. The ancient fireplace cast a flickering amber hue, shadows dancing softly across the cozy space. Max, content and peaceful, curled comfortably at the hearth's edge, his clean bandana a vibrant splash of red against the warm, worn wooden floor. His eyes, once filled with a wandering longing, now shimmered with a deep, serene calm and unspoken understanding settling into every glance and breath. The air was thick with the scent of melted logs, fresh bread from the bakery, and the faint aroma of fallen leaves, a symphony of simple, enduring comforts. Outside, the neighborhood hummed with a quiet rhythm, leaves drifting lazily in the cooling breeze, whispering stories of seasons past and promises fulfilled. A gentle hand reached out, softly stroking Max's scruffy head, fingers lingering in a whisper of gratitude and affection. The owner's face reflected a soft radiance, joy, relief, and an abiding pride, a tableau of reconciliation and trust. Max's eyes closed for a moment, the steady rise and fall of his breath blending with the faint crackle of the fire. In that silence, a quiet symphony played, every act of kindness, every moment of pain, every lesson learned woven into the stillness of this peaceful night. His journey had been long, fraught with shadows, yet now, amidst the gentle glow, he had found the peace he had long sought, a belonging that was whispered in acts of love, forged in resilience. The camera lingered on Max's contented face, the flickering light of the fire illuminating his gentle features, a symbol of hope reborn. The world outside hushed into a tender darkness, stars whispering silently above, eternal witnesses to a tale of transformation from solitude to sanctuary, from despair to joy. And as the scene slowly faded into a peaceful night, the final image lingered, a close-up of Max's steady, serene gaze, the red bandana softly billowing in the cool evening breeze, holding tight to the promise that love, trust, and small acts of kindness could truly heal the deepest wounds. Have you ever encountered an unexpected act of kindness? Share your experiences below.